Business session of the June 15th, 2021 City Council meeting to order at 6:10 p.m. As part of the next phase of the City of Waco reopening process, today's City Council meeting is open to the public attending in person. We are following CDC guidance and taking appropriate safety precautions. The public may participate in today's council meeting either remotely or in person. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, on March 16, 2020, the governor suspended various provisions of the Open Meetings Act pursuant to his state of disaster authority. The change was effective March 16, 2020 until further notice or until the state of disaster declaration expires. This meeting is being broadcast live at wccc.tv. To allow for as much public input as possible, those who wish to speak remotely or submit their written comments on a listed agenda item are asked to register with the City Secretary's office by 1:30 p.m. today. Individuals who are registered to speak on an agenda item must limit their comments to 3 minutes. On items other than public hearings, speakers will be allotted one 3-minute presentation regardless of the number of agenda items the speaker wishes to address. Now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is to consider the minutes from the June 1st, 2021 City Council meeting. Are there any corrections? There being no corrections, the minutes will stand approved as presented, and we have a special presentation to the 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. Will Hector Sabito and Dale Fissler please join me at the podium?
And Mayor and Council, we also have committee members Tina Maya and looks like Liz Palacios on the line right now, and of course Councilmember Bearfield.
The City Council and I would like to recognize the 2020 Census Complete Count Committee for their outstanding service and contributions to increase awareness and motivate households in Waco and McLennan County to complete the 2020 census. Despite the challenges, including a global pandemic, the committee developed and implemented a multifaceted awareness plan to increase 2020 census awareness and encourage undercounted populations to self-respond to the 2020 census. The City of Waco, McLennan County, Texas counts pooled funds. Local school districts and nonprofit organizations came together to assist the Waco census efforts. The result of the census not only affects the reapportioned seats of the House of Representatives and the realignment of congressional districts, but also determines how much federal funding our entire community will receive for roads, schools, housing, and social programs. So thank you to our committee, Taina Maya, the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for Killeen ISD, Dale Fissler, who also served as a co-chair with Ms. Maya, a community volunteer, and former city manager, our council member, Andrea Bearfield, who is joining us online today, council member Hector Sabito, who is standing here with me, Dr. Liz Palacios of Baylor University, the Dean of Student Development, Angela Avila, Texas State Technical College Assistant Director for Student Resources Centers, Cuevas Peacock of Baylor University, and Margie Cintron, a consultant and community volunteer. So with that, I'm going to pass these plaques on to Mr. Sabito and Mr. Fissler. The other committee members will have some for you that we will get to you as well. And Dale and Hector, if you have a few words to say, we'd love to hear from you guys.
Thank you, Mayor Meek. I just have a couple of things I wanted to say. First, I'd like to thank the Academy. Wrong jacket. I'd like to thank the Mayor and Council for recognizing the work of this committee. It was truly an honor to serve with this committee. You see my co-chair up there, Tanya Maya, and we actually had a good time. I even enjoyed working with the two council members on our team, and it was actually fun to work with them. They're both very talented, and we really did try to have a good time, and we worked really hard. I think Councilmember Sabito really did a good job this earlier today, explaining and summarizing some of the challenges that we had as a committee. And we hope that all those problems will be solved by the 2030 census. Councilmember Sabito was much more diplomatic than I would have been about some of the challenges, so I appreciate that. And again, hats off to your city secretary, Esmeralda Hudson, and her staff. They did an outstanding job. Actually, they did all the work, and she realized that's not one of my strong suits. And let's see. We got an assist from several other departments. I'd like to thank your talented young city manager for helping us out. And also I'm impressed that y'all made that a full-time job. I think it's about time. Let's see. Oh, and let's thank our city attorney. I don't think any of the committee members, I'm speaking for myself, did any actual jail time during our work that we had to do. Our hope is that the federal and state governments will step up for the 2030 census, and if there's anything else we can do, please just give us an ask. Thank you very much. It was an honor.
Thanks to our Jennifer and her staff, and Bradley and his staff, and Esmeralda so much for all you did. It means so much to us. And Dale, thank you for going ahead and agreeing to serving for the 2030. All right, who's running the show? Next, we have the first public hearing we have tonight is public hearing 2021-377. And Kent George, our Economic Development Program Manager, will make a staff presentation on this.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This is a public hearing on an ordinance amending the project and financing plan for reinvestment zone number 1 for tax increment financing, TIF zone 1. To consider approving TIF funds in an amount not to exceed $31,920 to City Center Waco to assist with professional services for a conceptual design and budgeting associated with the redevelopment of the Cotton Belt Railroad Bridge, located in line with Mary Avenue and crossing the Brazos River between Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and University Parks Boulevard, and an amendment to the agreement with 514 Austin LP to provide an extension of the project completion date for the renovation of buildings at 510, 514, and 518 Austin Avenue, and the allocation of an additional $300,000 to the facade improvement grant line item in the project financing plan to fund future facade improvement projects, and authorizing the city manager to execute any documents necessary to complete these transactions, providing an effective date, providing a saving clause, providing a severability clause, and finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance comes to you on first reading. On April 8, 2021, the TIF board voted 7-0 to recommend TIF funds in an amount not to exceed $31,920 to City Center Waco to assist with professional services for a conceptual design and budgeting associated with the redevelopment of the Cotton Belt Railroad Bridge, located in line with Mary Avenue and crossing the Brazos River between Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and University Parks Boulevard. And on April 8, 2021, the TIF board voted 7-0 to recommend an amendment to the agreement with 514 Austin Avenue LP to provide an extension of the project completion date for the renovation of buildings at 510, 514, and 518 Austin Avenue. And on April 8, 2021, the TIF board voted 6-0 to recommend additional funding up to $300,000 to the facade improvement grant program. As required by law, a notice of the public hearing was published in the Waco Tribune Herald on June 4, 2021.
Thank you, Kent. Are there any questions for staff? We will open up a public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak?
No, sir.
We'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move for approval on first reading.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll just say, this is Holmes over here. I'll just say that all three of these are worthwhile projects. The Cotton Belt Railroad project, I'm a big fan of. The extension makes a lot of sense, relative to the COVID situation. And then the facade allocation, I think we've had a lot of success with that program. So, and heavy support of all three of these.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I thank you, Kent, for the presentation. I echo Councilmember Holmes just in the necessity of these projects and extensions. Cotton Belt is important not only because of the historic preservation aspect of it, but it is literally a connectivity piece. And I think as we grow and develop Central Business District and the Elm Avenue corridor of downtown, completing this vision that was cast several years ago would be a major win for downtown Waco collectively, and that's both sides of the river. Also, the facade improvement grant gives so many, just adds so many additional opportunities because it may not be a need for full TIF funding, but just a little something that will better a business. You've got so many businesses that are in area of rehabilitation or renovation or new builds around them, and the opportunity to apply for that facade improvement grant, just maybe to throw a fresh coat of paint on to a building that may be 100 years old but is about to be surrounded by new buildings, would make a tremendous impact not only on that business but on the community that it stands in. So I fully support this effort.
Very good. Any further discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes. That motion carries, and we'll move on to public hearing 2021-378. And Renisha Hudnall, our interim director of community housing services, will be making this presentation.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This is a public hearing to receive comments on the 2021-22 Annual Action Plan prior to submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The City of Waco's Citizen Participation Plan requires the city to conduct a public hearing to receive comments on the 21-22 Annual Action Plan prior to submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Annual Action Plan includes a housing, homeless, and community development needs plan for addressing priority needs and the city's specific plans for the use and spending of the 21-22 Community Development Block Grant Funds and Home Investment Partnership Funds. The plan was made available for the public's review on June 10, 2021, and will remain available through July 9, 2021. Hard copies are available for public's viewing in the City Secretary's office, the Housing Office, and the public libraries. The notice for this public hearing was published in the non-legal section of the Waco Tribune Herald newspaper and posted on the city's website, posted at the city's libraries, and on the city's bulletin boards.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? We will open the public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak?
No, sir.
We will close the public hearing, and there's no action required on this item. We'll now move to public hearing 2021-379. Clint Peters, our Director of Development Services, will be making a staff presentation on this.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider a resolution granting a special permit to Davis and Stan Wenzel for a short-term rental type 2 in our R1B zoning district on property described as Lot 3, Block 4, the Lakes University Parks Edition, known as 1123 Merganser Way. By a vote of 7-2, the Plan Commission recommended approval of the request based on the following findings. That the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan, that the proposed use is compatible with the appropriate and orderly development of the area in which it is located, that the proposed use will not be more objectionable to neighboring properties because of traffic congestion, noise, fumes, vibrations, or any other characteristics than any use permitted in the zoning district without the grant of a special exception, and that available community facilities and services, including the road system providing access to the proposed use, are adequate for proposed use. This recommendation did come to you with an additional condition, and that is that the STR shall be limited to 2 bedrooms.
Good. Are there any questions for staff? We will open up a public.
What,
Oh,
Mayor?
sorry.
So Clint, talk to me about the change, and I'm sorry I was not at that part of the work session.
Sure. So this is a 4-bedroom rental unit that per the SCR ordinance requires 4 parking spaces. Because of the location on the house, it has a 2-car garage, but the space between the garage and the right-of-way is not large enough to accommodate the required parking spaces. And so the staff recommended this approval because it didn't meet the parking requirements for the ordinance. But the applicant asked to revise their request to just rent out 2 of the 4 bedrooms for STR, which would meet the requirement because there's 2 parking spaces in the garage.
And so the only way to really monitor that would be the parking, how many cars are parked there, is that correct?
That and the advertisements on the rental platforms, online rental platforms, that they advertise it as a 2-bedroom unit. So that will change their occupancies that they can, have in the home per their license.
So, and humor me, so the well, can't get into probability, but so it would just be us monitoring the sites and parking and or neighbor complaints or interactions. That's the only way that would be enforceable
That's correct.
in reality.
That's correct.
Okay. And there was opposition from neighbors?
We did get one card back in opposition.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And that, Holmes over here, that one card did not compose 20% of the, or didn't get anywhere close to the 20% threshold?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? We'll now open a public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak on this item?
No, sir.
We will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Clint, I have one more question for you really quick. Does the owner, this is an owner-occupied house. He lives there. He'll just be doing this when he's not there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But it is a SDR2, not a 1, so he will not be there
When they're
when
on
the
site.
guests are there.
Yeah, that's right.
And are you done, Mayor?
Yep.
Okay, it's one of the comment I had before the vote. This, even though we're kind of the tenor of owner-occupied STR2s is sort of, evolving, let's say. This permit was requested under kind of the old rules, and we're in the final stages of doing something about it right now, right?
That's correct.
And is supported with only one person, only one card. It's basically supported by the neighbors, only one response. The neighborhood doesn't have an issue with it.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all, Mayor.
Please poll the council.
Holmes.
Aye.
Palmer.
Abstain.
Porteroo.
No.
Fairfield.
No.
Sabido.
No.
Meek.
Yes, my motion fails. So, Jennifer, what is the best? Can we take another motion on it, or do we?
Well, you certainly can. You do not have to, because the motion, it failed to pass.
Great.
But you certainly could, if you so chose, you could do a motion to deny, but you don't have to.
Got it. Okay, that motion fails. We'll move to public hearing 2021-380.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider a resolution granting a special permit to Blue Willow Home Ventures LLC for a short-term rental type 2 in R1B zoning district on property described as Lot 8, Block 36 of the Provident Edition, known as 2525 Colcord Edition. By a vote of 9-0, Plan Commission recommended approval of the request based on the following findings. That the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan, that the proposed use is compatible with the appropriate and orderly development of the area which is located, that the proposed use will not be more objectionable to neighboring properties because of traffic congestion, noise, fumes, vibrations, or any other characteristics than any use permitted in the zoning district without the grant of the special exception, and that available community facilities and services, including the road system providing access to the proposed use, are adequate for the proposed use.
Any questions for staff? We will open a public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak?
Yes, sir. We have a Nancy Scarborough. She is on the line. I'm giving her access to speak and turn on her camera. Nancy, are you on the line? There she is. Nancy, can you unmute your phone or device? If you're on a phone, I believe you can hit *6 to unmute. Or I can call you.
Okay, here I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Nancy, we can.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not technically very adept. But my name is Nancy Scarborough. My husband David and I have been the owners of this house just a few months. This house it's a 102-year-old house. And of course, on Cole Court Avenue, historic area. But it's been completely realized that we need to add parking. So there is one parking space in the back off of 26th Street, but we plan to put in about a 60 or 70-foot driveway on the side of the front. That there's enough room there to provide enough parking. This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house with we finished out the attic as well. It's kind of a place for just a flex room. But I've been a super host with Airbnb I've been with Airbnb about 3 years now. We run Haley's Cottage that is behind our house. We're outside the city limits, have 5-star reviews. So we'd like to open up this one in town if that's possible.
Thank you, Ms. Scarborough. Esmeralda, did anyone else register to speak?
No, sir.
We will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to deny.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, as the District 4 representative, I have heard from a number of residents in the Sanger Heights neighborhood who have voiced concern about the number of Airbnbs in the area and wanting to preserve the really rich sense of neighborhood and community engagement that folks feel on that street. And for that reason, I will be voting no.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll just chime in. Same thing as I had on the other one. I think we're catching these people in the middle of a rule change, and I hate changing rules in the middle of the game. So I think I'm gonna vote no on the denial of the permit.
Councilmember Paul, I'm really excited about the rule change that we're making, but I'm going to come alongside Councilmember Holmes on this, and it's a thin line, and definitely hear where you're coming from, and the constituents of Sanger Heights are coming from, and it's because of the corridor that this is on, Cole Court and 26th Street being a busy street, and that's what gives me the comfort that it could work out okay on where we are in the process, but I'm excited for the consistency that I think we're finding in the rule changes ahead. Any other discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes.
No.
Palmer.
Aye.
Porter.
Yes.
Fairfield.
I abstain.
Sabido.
Yes.
Meek.
No, that motion carries, correct?
Not the denial carries.
The denial carries.
Wait, I need to do some math.
I don't.
I think it did not pass.
I think that motion fails because it just had 3 yeses, right?
It was a 3, abstain is considered a no.
Correct.
Okay. So the denial fails. And we can take another motion.
Yeah, somebody could do a motion to pass if you think it's going to.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve as written, I guess, just so we can get it on the record.
I'll second. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please poll the council.
Well, can I ask
Yeah,
a question,
sure.
Mayor? I'm sorry. Can I ask to staff?
Sure.
So this permit will not be passed until she meets the parking requirement, correct?
Correct. It's got a condition in there that the parking must be, constructed and approved before they could get their license, their license.
Okay, thank you.
And Holmes, one more time. No neighbors have any issue with this. All neighbors were contacted and they're saying, fine,
Well, that responded to, neighbors have had issue, but they just didn't respond.
They've had an opportunity to respond.
Yeah.
and there was no,
That's, from the notices we mailed out, 24, we did not get any response from those notices.
0 for 24.
Any other discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes.
Aye.
Palmer.
No.
Porter.
No.
Fairfield.
I abstain.
Sabido.
Yes.
Meek.
Yes.
So neither is passed, so this special permit has not passed.
The special permit does not pass. We'll move to public hearing 2021-382.
So, 381.
I'm sorry, I was getting ahead of myself there.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, providing that the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco be amended by revising Section 28-247 and Chapter 28 zoning and said code, providing that the zoning map shall be changed so that certain property described as Lot 19, Block 6, the Waco Heights Edition, known as 500 North 34th Street, shall be changed from O3 district classification and be designated an R1B district classification, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding a term that the meeting in which this ordinance is passed is up until the public is required by law. By a vote of 9-0, Plan Commission recommended approval of the request based on the following findings. 1, the proposed zoning is keeping with the land use component of the comprehensive plan. 2, the public infrastructure is adequate to provide for uses allowed in R1B zoning. 3, the property meets all size and width requirements for R1B. And 4, there is R1B zoning adjacent to the subject property.
Any questions for staff? We will open up a public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak?
No, sir.
We will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion for approval on first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes? Palmer?
Aye.
Porteroo?
Yes.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries, and we'll go to public hearing 2021-382.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance abandoning the remainder of a 20-foot alley located between Mary Avenue and Jackson Avenue and South 6th Street and 8th Street, described as being a .015 acre tract of land situated in the T.J. Chambers Edition, abstract number 7, McLennan County, Texas, being all the remainder of that called 20-foot wide alley separating tracks 1, 2, and 3, described in a deed to SRH Hospitality Waco Realty LLC, a Texas limited liability company, as recorded in McLennan County Clerk's file number 2020-03-6868 of the official public records of McLennan County, Texas. From tracks 1 and 2, described in a deed to BRWT LLC, a Texas limited liability company, is recorded in McLennan County Clerk's file number 2020-04-2605 of the official public records of McLennan County, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute quitclaim deeds, providing a severability clause, and finding a term that the meeting in which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. By a 9-0 vote, Plan Commission recommended approval of the abandonment based on the following findings and condition. 1, that public use of the alley right-of-way is not required for proper flow of traffic or for emergency vehicle access to the area. And 2, utility access for the surrounding property is not adversely impacted by the abandonment of the right-of-way. 2 conditions are: a general utility easement shall be retained by the City of Waco, or utilities must be relocated at the developer's expense for the area of the abandoned right-of-way. And 2, the applicant must provide an exhibit filled notes for each portion of the abandoned alley needed for associated quitclaim deeds.
Are there any questions for staff? We will open a public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak on this item?
No, sir.
We will close the hearing. Is there a motion?
A move to approve based on Plan Commission findings and conditions.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Porteroo?
Yes.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And we'll now move to the consent agenda, which consists of resolutions. There were 2 items pulled from the consent agenda: Resolution 2021-385 and 2021-393. Esmeralda, is there one more that was removed as well?
Yes, sir. We had to remove Resolution 2021-384 on the Baylor bonds. We have 2,
Okay.
Councilmember Porteroo and Palmer filed affidavits of
Very
substantial
good.
interest.
So Resolution 2021-384 was pulled from the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. Is there a motion on 384?
Motion for approval. Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And we'll move to Resolution 2021-384, which was pulled from the, 385, which was pulled from the consent agenda as well, and will be voted on separately. Is there a motion on 385?
Motion for approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm excited about this project, so I really enjoyed the presentation earlier in work session today, and so look forward to this project coming to fruition this summer here in downtown Waco, so thank you.
Mayor and council, I believe that I was having a hard time figuring out what this item is for. Somebody did submit comments, but I believe this is what it's related to. And if I'm wrong, well, at least you've heard it. This is from Mr. John Mark Buckner. He's stating that my business, January Letterpress, is located on the corner of 7th Street and Franklin Avenue. I probably spend more time there than anyone else down this alley and have always thought it's underutilized. On any given day, the amount of traffic on it is minimal compared to 6th and 8th Street. There's only 3 legal parking spots on it, so it's not very beneficial to shoppers. Also, because the large walls with no signage, it looks unfriendly, and it seems that most tourists avoid walking down it. In comparison, since the Chalk Fest, I've noticed a fair amount of people taking pictures of the art still on the walls and enjoying being in the alley. It seems then that this is a trial worth attempting. Something is better than nothing. He says this is related to 7th Street's alley this summer. So, and that's all I had.
Thank you, Esmeralda.
We had a motion and a second.
Any discussion? Any further discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Yes. Meek?
Yes, that motion carries, and we will move to Resolution 2021-393, which was pulled from the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. Is there a motion on 2021-393?
Motion for approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have a page full of notes. So one of my mentors in undergrad would say all the time, you can't maximize all value simultaneously. And when I think about this specific resolution, that maxim really holds true here. Public safety is absolutely a priority of this council and of our community, but it is not the only priority of this council. We have mammoth-sized needs in our community, whether it's looking at housing, equitable economic development, living wage jobs, roads, sidewalks. We have $2.5 billion worth of needs in replacement of our streets, our stormwater, just basic city services, and public safety and our PD budget are already the largest portions of the pie for our city budget. PD currently is at $43.6 million a year, whereas if you looked at housing, which is less than 1% of our city budget year after year, it's only $2.8 million total. With this, there is a significant cash match piece of $1.6 million, which would then result in a $1.2 million year-over-year addition from the general fund. So for those reasons, I will be voting no against this because our resources are so limited, and I think for us to thoughtfully steward these, we need to share the pie up more equitably than we currently are doing so.
I would like to also say, I've been in Waco my entire life, and historically speaking, Waco PD and people of color didn't have the best relationship growing up, and I have seen that transition and change over time. I have seen our community rally behind our police officers, our firefighters. I have seen and heard and spoken to constituents that wonder, why does it take sometimes so long for Waco PD to answer their calls in South Waco when I know Waco PD is handling other emergency calls? And so as a person of color, yes, public safety is also my priority, but also to see the advances that we have made with Waco PD between our community and the police department, it's very encouraging. And for that reason, I'm supportive of this resolution. I think when we are able to tell constituents with 12 more police officers, hopefully, that your response time will be a lot quicker, that you will feel safer in your neighborhoods. Then not only are we just taking a select group of police officers to do relational policing, but it's our entire department going under that same theme and mentality. I think Waco is very unique in that, yes, we see some disparities, but we also know that we need change and positive change and unification. And so For all those reasons, I'm in favor of this resolution.
Yeah, I'll echo Mayor Pro Tem Savito there, because when Chief Victorian, you came in a couple weeks ago, and you were saying there's 14, 15 people on patrol shift at any given time. I got to tell you, that concerns me. And I want to be supportive of making sure we have enough, not only for the citizens of District 5, but the citizens of Waco, the patrol, enforcement, and presence that this city deserves, and that you deserve and our department deserves. Because I know that in past presentations that former Chief Holt gave, it always seemed like we were like 20 officers behind. And this is an opportunity, as I see it, to have a grant help ease into that commitment of 12, up to 12 more officers. So again, it better incorporate, I think as we get these extra officers in, better incorporating the relational policing objectives we have, the mental health aspects of what we're talking about, and other, effective policing techniques. I'm excited to support this resolution.
Hi, I wanted to echo Council Members Holmes and Sabito in support of this one of the things that I think is pretty much understood here is that our community is priority. The safety of our community is priority, and I think in a sense it's one of those things that as our pillars, our foundational pillars, because we can't grow, we can't advance economic development, we can't advance in the other things if people do not feel safe in our city, right? I think one of the things Councilmember Holmes mentioned that I was going to say is that this request is not a new one. Before ACM Holt was that in that role as Chief Holt, he mentioned often what we needed. As someone who you've heard from Mayor Pro Tem Sabito about South Waco, but as representative of East Waco and parts of North and South Waco, where you can just sit out on your porch and hear the goings on of our community, we know that more boots on the ground or members of the force are necessary. We are experiencing a bit of crisis right now in our city, and I think that this opportunity that is not solely out of our budget, that does have some grant support, is right on time, because as we give our new chief an opportunity to enhance Waco's public safety platform with relational policing, but that being but one of the things that is needed to grow and advance our force. This grant would provide that opportunity. So in that, I'm offering my support of this, because if Waco is again at the precipice of greatness, in this season, and I think that we've got to allow our public safety officers as much opportunity and leeway to do their jobs and enhance the safety and full development of our community as possible. So I think this grant opportunity will allow it to do this without putting a humongous dent in our pocket. We will have to do some match, but I think the return on investment is certainly worth it.
Can I ask a quick match question? There is mention of a waiver in the resolution. Mm-hmm. Is that something that is available to us that would waive that $1.6 million cash match component?
We did do some exploring today, and I won't say definitively we know the answer to this yet, Councilwoman. We do understand it going forth with the waiver could impact our ability to be funded in terms of how the projects get ranked by the COPS office. That is something I'd like to explore more deeply ahead of the deadline for the application, and we can report back on that.
I'd like to say, from the neighbors that I've heard from in District 3, when it comes to Waco Police, there's a lot of great admiration for the professionalism and for just a well-run department. But the number one need I hear is the need for more patrol. And as certain council members have expressed too, response times, and we're a pretty spread out city as well. And so the need to cover all the ground we have for police calls with the crime rate that we have is great. And so the opportunity to add over 10 new members of the 12 patrol officers, I think would be a great benefit to our community. And I look forward to seeing the new direction our force is taking with our new chief. So I will be voting in support.
First of all, thanks to Chief for being here tonight, and thank you for our police department for their faithful service to our community and earning the comments that council members have said tonight. Comments like what Councilmember Sabito just said deserve honor. So I just want to start by saying, like, man, I'm thankful that I'm sitting at this desk next to a council member who feels strongly enough to say that. I think every council member has the goal for this city to be known as a safe city, to be a safe city. That is my heart. One of my primary goals is for Waco to be, both in perception and reality, a safe city. Every part of Waco, in perception and reality, a safe city. For criminals in this community to be on notice that the police department has been resourced appropriately, and Waco is not a city by which to commit crimes. And the reason I'm voting for this tonight is because I'm excited about getting some, in part, grant money to be able to take one step further to accomplishing that goal of being able to look every resident in Waco in the eyes and say, we have put forth proactive, strategic means to make sure that this city is safe, and that criminals are on notice that if you want to commit violent crimes, Waco is not the city for you. And so I recognize that there's multiple approaches to achieving that goal. And I think even Chief said herself that we can't arrest our way out of everything, that we've got to have a multiple approach to that. But I'm excited to support this measure tonight. Councilmember Palmer, I hear what you're saying, and I do want to also say that I'm committed to housing, equitable economic development, and other goals. I'm committed to continuing to work strategically and creatively to see those through. I like the idea of saying, if I want to get this regardless, I'll be voting for this regardless of whether there's a match or not, but that would be cool if there wasn't. But my goal is to get these funds and resource our police department. So thankful for you being here tonight, Chief, and I think that's everyone that's spoken. Is there any further discussion on this item? All right, we will, Esmeralda, please poll the council.
Yes, sir. Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
No.
Porter-Ruud?
Yes.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Sabito? Yes. Meek?
Yes, that motion carries, and we will now go to the consent agenda, which includes resolutions 2021, 2021-383 through 2021-403, with the exceptions of 2021-384, 385, and 393. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion for approval on consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion?
Holmes? Palmer? Porter-Ruud?
Yes.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Sabito? Yes. Meek?
Yes, that motion carries, and we will move on to ordinance 2021-404.
An ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, amending Section 18-83 and Chapter 18 Personnel of said code, providing the number of police officers, police sergeants, police commanders, and assistant police chiefs authorized by the City Council, providing a savings clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on June 1st, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Approve on second reading.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer? Porter-Ruud?
Yes.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Sabito? Yes. Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And we'll now move to the hearing of visitors. Are there any registered speakers for the hearing of visitors?
Yes, sir, we do have one registered speaker, Mr. Ephraim Herring. They're getting him.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ephraim Harry, and I'm coming to you. I came here August 1st, 2017, to try to get an issue resolved for 1046 Chestnut. It still is not resolved. It's kind of sad it's not resolved. So on July 12th, 2018, I gave Manager Ford a letter saying I was going to start an investigation on what went wrong at 1046 Chestnut involving my mom. I gave her a flyer. This goes back, you know, the sad part about it, and I got to go apologize to my mom's grave, because she told me in 2002 when I was here as a trooper writing tickets that a city official that I wrote a ticket to approached her, and she had problems ever since. I blew it off. So I'll take full responsibility for that on that. So I'll get to what I came here for. I looked at the charter. I've been researching your charter. I've been researching all your city ordinances. Bob Horner refused to help me, so I want to thank him for that. I want to thank everybody on the staff that refused to help me, because it forced me to go look at your charter and also look at your city ordinance. 1046 Chestnut was passed in violation of 5 of your city ordinances. Then in 2018, I kept coming back. 2018, y'all put in a drive approach between 1046 Chestnut and 1056 Chestnut. It's in violation. It was done by your Public Works Department. When they was doing it, I called your Public Works Department and got told I needed to mind my business. So I mind my business and kept investigating. Right now, that drive approach, if you drive by there, is a danger to the motoring public. I did my drive approach by borrowing money from my family and put in according with your regulations. The one that Public Works put in right now is in violation. You can drive by there and look at it. It's a drop off of about a foot. If somebody walks in there and falls, y'all will get sued. And I'm gonna tell them because I got all the pictures. I made sure mine was inspected properly. I did all the open records requests to make sure mine was done properly. But right now, Public Works and what y'all did in 2018 has caused another problem for me. I already spent an extra $30,000 trying to get that property right. Neighborhood Works Waco, like I said, Neighborhood Housing Association, you know, I wouldn't recommend them to anybody, and I wouldn't recommend them to my enemies from what I've been through by these group. And by your inspection department, I don't know who's running the inspection department. One incident happened to me that got me restarted on this again was on September 17, I was approached by Ms. Barfield. She came by my house. That was not a problem. The problem I had is when Public Works showed up and your inspection department showed up in direct violation of your charter. Because by your charter, the only person should be coming by my house with them people is the city manager or them by themselves. Thank you for your time. We need to get this fixed, gentlemen. Like I said, I got an investigation done. I'm not gonna waste your time if you're not gonna look at my investigation. And I will send it to each one of them by email. I told your secretary I was gonna send it to her on that Monday, but I held off because that's only part of what I got right now. This started back in 2001.
Mr. Herring, your time is up. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else registered to speak in the hearing of visitors?
No, sir.
We will close the hearing of visitors. And are there any requests for future agenda items? Or are there any reports from committees, boards, commissions, liaison visits?
Yes, Mayor Meek, I do have, I just wanted to share a quick presentation with council and city staff and those in attendance. Last week, as we all know, our Waco Housing Authority has been doing a redevelopment, has been very busy doing a redevelopment, starting with the complex at South Terrace. And last week, I had the opportunity to take a tour through some of the complexes that have been recently done and remodeled and renovated. On the left there, you will see what one of the units looked like beforehand or while they were working on it, and then on the right, what it looks like now. What really impressed me is, and please, Ashley, feel free to show the pictures as I'm going through this. Please, what really impressed me is the unique feel and look of a home South Terrace has. They went from concrete walls to sheetrock that are painted. AC units on the top of the units to the side. New appliances in all of these, from new dishwashers, which they never had before, stove, microwaves they've never had before, refrigerators, wooden floors. The tenants get to pick one accent wall in their living room. And then, of course, on a lot of them, you'll see the landscaping and the colorful exteriors that we experienced. As I drove with Waco Housing Authority through that complex, it was just so refreshing to see that going on, that type of revitalization, that all of our constituents feel heard, appreciated, and know that they have a very important part in our community. And so I'm excited as they do these projects that, you know, once it's finished with South Terrace, that they will go on to Estella Maxey next and then Kate Ross, because we know that when you are proud of where you're going to live and where you live and where you call home, it makes a huge difference in your life and in the life of your children. So I just wanted to give a quick update to council and everyone, just to say to show you the great things that are going on at South Terrace right now.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else? The last thing I want to say is I think there's a deputy city manager who has a birthday tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday to Deputy City Manager Deidre Emerson tomorrow. Everybody, don't forget to tell her that tomorrow when you see her. All right, there being no further business, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:02 p.m.